ॐ तवकमृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं शरवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि वनन्ति भूरिराजना. Your words are like nectar, bringing life to squirt souls. They are praised by poets and remove all sin. They are auspicious to hear, wonderful and exalted. Those who spread these words throughout the world are truly giving souls. Welcome to our class on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We are on the chapter, The Master in Various Moods. And this date is Thursday, October 2nd, 1884. And we're on page 582. The discussion is with Mahindra of Sindhi. And Sri Ramakrishna, now addressing him, he's talking about the nature of the self. So we'll start in the middle. I read this last time, but just to get the context of all of this, to M. That which is pure Atman is unattached. Maya or avidya is in it. In Maya, there are three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. These three gunas also exist in the pure Atman. But Atman itself is unattached. If you throw a blue pill into the fire, you will see a blue flame. If you throw a red pill, you will see a red flame. But fire itself has no color of its own. Now, this statement that in Maya are the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, this is common. This no one will question this statement. But now Sri Ramakrishna says that these three gunas also exist in the pure Atman. Now, this is a statement that requires a little explanation or different type of understanding, because first of all, it sounds like a perfect contradiction. Pure Atman should not have any gunas in it, right? Or if anything, simply sattva or something. So, what does this mean, or how can we understand this? If we think of consciousness containing something within it, so consciousness will contain thoughts. If we have any perceptions, that whatever comes in through the senses and appears before the mind, whatever thoughts arise in the mind, these exist within consciousness, but don't really belong to consciousness. So if we think of it another way, if we have a mirror and we see the reflection, now the reflection is in the mirror, but the object that's being reflected is not in the mirror. It's standing before the mirror. And the mirror is not affected by any of it. It doesn't really belong to the mirror. So anything that belongs to the mind will seem to belong to the self. Because when we talk about this false identification or this adhyasa, it's mostly between the Atman and the mind. The confusion is between the Atman as consciousness and the mind as that which appears to be conscious, because that's what catches the reflection of the self. If we think of the illustration of the container of water, the container will not reflect the sun. It's only the water inside the container. And if we say that that the sun, does the sun dwell in the water? Well, as the reflected sun dwells in the water, and because of that, that reflected sun seems to take on the quality of the water. So if the water is wavy, the sun will be wavy. If the water is a little dirty, the sun will appear dirty, like that. So the these three gunas exist in the mind, and the mind is just dwelling right on the surface of this ocean of consciousness of the self. So from that point of view, we can say that they also exist in the pure Atman, but Atman itself is unattached. So whatever happens to that reflected sun has no effect on the real sun. And this is another way of saying that really Atman is one with Brahman. So that sun will be Brahman, and each reflected sun will be what we call the Jiva, Jivatman. But that Atman, in connection with the mind, will seem to have all of the modifications of the mind dwelling within it. But really, it's only the reflected sun is not the real sun. These are very technical points, and this distinguishing the jiva from the Atman, or the mental capacity of the mind, because we don't generally think of the mind as an instrument, although we talk about it that way. If we think of our own minds, we think of them as conscious elements somehow. We think with the mind, yeah. So because we're identifying them with the self. So this is that point in which it's very hard to make that to disentangle the the subtle body from the self, because all of our experience it goes through the mind, whether it's perceptual experience or mental. It doesn't matter what it is. It all comes through the mind, and the mind is that which is standing right in front of this Atman, the self. So that's why we say the self is the mind of the mind, the eye of the eye. We read in Kena Upanishad, things like that. And yes. Yeah, we can say that the jiva will be. Of course, we use these terms nirguna and saguna with regard to Brahman itself. It's not. We generally won't say the jiva is saguna, but it really means that the gunas belong to Maya. That means to everything that belongs to nature, everything that's not the self. So it belongs to the mind, to the body, to every external things like that. So these are the gunas. They all belong there. The self is beyond the gunas, but through this connection, through this sambandha, there's some connection there. Uh, then uh, we associate them, the gunas, with that. So if we look at the Kathopanishad example, the passenger is in the chariot, right? Now, the passenger can only look outside and see what's taking place through the windows. Uh, these windows will be through the senses, and whatever it experiences out there will be tainted by the nature of the mind. So, as long as the real self is has this connection with the body, mind, senses, and everything, then it's affected by the gunas, but no real change takes place. It's affected only the way when I observe something, I can be affected by it, but as an observer, I'm not. I'm unchanged. So the mirror is affected by something in front of it, only in the sense that it'll reflect whatever's in front of it. And that'll be because of gunas. It'll have a variety of different things. But as soon as you move away from it, the mirror is just a pure reflector again. So nothing that everything will leave a mark on the mind. but nothing will leave a mark on pure consciousness. And just like everything in the reflected sun, everything in the water, the waviness, the turbulence, whatever it is, will leave a mark on the reflected sun, but it won't touch the real sun. This is that the distinction that we make. Then we read this last time about the butcher and Shankaracharya. So let's go with this. The pure Atman is unattached and one cannot see it. If salt is mixed with water, one cannot see the salt with the eyes. The real reason why we can't see the Atman is not that it's too subtle, but it's the seer. Anything that can be seen has to be distinct from the seer. The knower can never be an object of knowledge. It's always the subject, the eternal subject. So when we talk about seeing the self or seeing Brahman, it really means realizing our true nature as the self. It's not a question of seeing. It's not even a question of seeing with some divine insight or going the mind going higher. The self cannot be seen. It's and not because it's invisible or anything. It's the seer. It's the pure subject. It can never be objectified. As soon as we objectify it, we've turned it into an object, and it's no longer the self.
The seeing is automatically controlled by the gunas.
Yeah, anything that's an object of our experience is composed of the three gunas. When we say composed of the three gunas, we don't have to take this in some material or scientific sense. It just means it belongs to the relative world, and it'll have the qualities of being of inertia and activity and calm. All of those different things will be there in different measures. That's all. That's all. We don't have to take this as some atomic theory or theory of matter, ultimate matter, or anything like that. It's one way of just saying that it belongs to the relative world. If salt is mixed with water, one cannot see the salt with the eyes. Yeah, we talk about it, that the self, because it's too subtle, but really it's not really the ultimate explanation. The real explanation is that it's the seer, it's the observer. The observer, see, Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of the night watchman, that no one can see the night watchman. His light is shining outward. Now, then he says, well, if you ask the night watchman to turn it towards him, then you can see its face. But this will be some Saguna Brahman type of idea. But if we stick with really this Upanishadic idea that the Atman is the pure drashta, the real seer, it can never be objectified. It can never be an object of sight, an object of thought. An object of thought only as a category, but it can never be anything that can be apprehended by the mind because it's the ultimate seer. So, by definition, the seer can never be seen. It can never be turned into an object. What is that? By virtue of which the knower can be known. This is one of the great statements in the Upanishads, rhetorical statement. There's nothing. There's no. It's as soon as we say that I've seen it, then the I is the one who has seen it is the self, not what's being seen. And if we talk about ourselves, yes, now I've seen the real self. What we've done is we've objectified it, and we're seeing the ego self. But the one who's seeing is the pure self. We say the witness. That's the real self. That which is the pure Atman is the great cause, the cause of the cause. Page 582, bottom. Yeah. So we have the physical world and this mental world and this causal world. We have these also. We say the three different bodies, different ways of explaining uh, that each human being has this makeup. That there's a physical aspect, there's the mental aspect, and then that subconscious element. And the subconscious element is the cause, in the sense in which all of our past experiences are there in some causal state, some seed state, so that when we go to sleep, everything is kept together there. We wake up and we can bring it back. Memory, we can pull things from it. It remains there in some unknown way. Now, this Mahakarana, this great cause, will be that which is even beyond that. So that will be that ultimate source. That ultimate source. So this Mahakarana, this will be Brahman. This will be that consciousness which is not simply functioning as the witness of all of our experiences, but that from which there's a whole visible universe is projected at the time of creation.
So is it supraconscious?
It's not even superconscious. Superconscious would be for the individual. From the samashti point of view, from the individual point of view, it is turiya. It is that state of that samadhi state. But in that samadhi state, there's no way to distinguish an individual who was in that state and the state of being Brahman. That distinction is gone. Every other state, they'll have this microcosm, macrocosm distinction. That the individuals experience something the way Ishvara can project the universe, something like that. But in this nirvikalpa state, the microcosm and the macrocosm distinction disappears. Then there's if we say what's the difference between being Brahman and ultimately that state of final emerging, final realization, being Brahman, and experiencing nirvikalpa samadhi, we have to say there's no difference. Only this nirvikalpa samadhi state is conceivable that we can come back down. The body may still remain and all of that, but in terms of experience, because there's no particular experience. Whatever that experience is, there's nothing particular about it. Whatever it means to be merged in Brahman, and for Brahman to be Brahman are the same thing. So, from that point of view, no samashti vyashti distinction, microcosm, macrocosm distinction. So that which is pure Atman is the great cause, the cause of the cause. So now, if we remember our Mandukya Upanishad, that we can say that this is that fourth element. Everything was explained by Om, Uma. This fourth element, there's was a physical body, and then U was subtle body, was this subconscious causal body. And if we take it all together, Om, the three altogether creates a fourth. And that's called Turiya, this fourth. And that's that state of nirvikalpa samadhi, and that's the great cause. Because it's one with it, then we're one with Brahman in that state. So the gross, the subtle, the causal, and the great cause. We only deal with the first three because these are the three that we know. That great cause, that's the sun. And the sun, we don't see directly. Sri Ramakrishna says, if you want to know what that sun is like, you have to see the reflected sun within. So our understanding of what is the nature of that pure light. The nature of that pure light is the self within. But that's a reflection from the sun. So the gross, the subtle, the causal, and the great cause. The five elements are gross. So the sukshma. So these are the five elements. Mind, buddhi, and ego are subtle. So manas, buddhi, ahankara. We can add chitta. These are not absolute. This simply means the whole mental makeup. Are subtle. Prakriti, the primal energy, is the cause of all these. Now, when we read the Gita, in Gita, uh, there's a greater tendency to take everything back to Prakriti because there's a tremendous Sankhya influence there. Now, the only difference between Sankhya and Vedanta is that ultimately, Vedanta or the Upanishads, they'll want to trace the three gunas in Prakriti back to Brahman itself. Where in the Sankhya system, it'll be a separate category. It'll have its own independence, but relying upon. It can't function without Purusha. So, when we say that Prakriti, the primal energy, is the cause of all these, then that's this Karana. This is the Sankhya system. Brahman, pure Atman, is the cause of the cause. Now we've added that little footnote. There's a main distinction between the Sankhya system, which wants to say that we can just say that the nature is the cause of this physical universe. We don't have to explain it in any other way. That it's composed of the three gunas, that they remain in some state of entropy or equilibrium. It gets disturbed and its creation comes and it goes back to that state again. We can explain everything like that. More like modern science. More like modern science, but even modern science has to somehow come up with an explanation for, well, whatever primal matter or energy there is, what is the source of that, the ground of that? And then Vedanta will say, this is Brahman, is the source or ground of that. What is it like? We can't say exactly.
Sankhya doesn't distinguish between Sakara Brahman or Jiva.
They don't have any of that.
Yeah.
No, there's no real personal God in the Sankhya system. And none of this God with form or all the different deities and everything. It's a philosophical system. It doesn't have any of the theological side to it. Yeah. I mean, they can explain it, of course. They can explain it in terms, the way Thakur explains, that we see things according to the longing of the heart and all of that. And they can also explain objectively that these different lokas also can be composed of the three gunas, these different deities also. They can explain it that way. But all from the point of view, Prakriti. Prakriti doesn't mean this what we see, trees and birds and animals and all of that. It means that essential subtle matter which can manifest itself as this universe or can remain in an unmanifest form. Some primal matter, we can say, somehow, which can be also taken down into energy. Prana can be understood that way. Prana and Akasha, the matter and energy. The pure Atman alone is our real nature. Now, why is this important? This is the question. Why is this important? Why not say my real nature is that I'm a combination? That why should I deny this physical body? That's part of my real nature. Why should I deny this mind and my personality and all of that? That's part of my real nature. Right? But these are all changing. These are all changing. This physical body will completely go. I can take a different body. Even at the time of sleep, I can enter into a dream body. That same sense of I is there. So from that point of view, the real self is that which is standing behind everything and observing everything. The other is important. We can say the apparent self. This is important when we talk to people, when we have a relationship with somebody, that we love somebody. We don't love that person only because the self is there. We love them because their qualities, their sweetness and kindness and all of this belongs to nature, to gunas, to their personality, to the mind, to the heart center, whatever. So it's not to say that these things aren't also important, but If we're invested in these things, and this is our sense of identification, then when we start to lose it, our youth, our beauty, and all of that, then we lose our sense of self. It very often happens that those who have a profession for a whole lifetime, they retire. They lose their sense of identity. They don't know who they are anymore. I've mentioned before, there's a play that was written by Sartre, the great existentialist, philosopher and writer, about a very famous actor on the stage. And his name was Keane, or Kane, something Keane. That when he wasn't acting, he had no idea who he was. He was such a great actor that any part that he played, he would fully identify with that part. And as soon as the play was over, he had no sense of identity. So we identify so much with these external things that if these things are gone, then we don't know who we are. Now, what does Sri Ramakrishna say? This is very important. He says that very few people can identify with this pure self. So he says, form a relationship with God. Think of yourselves in terms of a relationship. This sense of ego doesn't leave us. There's not a second of the day, unless we're sleeping or we're in some days, we're reading a book. Otherwise, we have some sense of who we are, some feeling of I. So he says, yeah, then let it remain. Let this ego remain, but forge a new identity with in the context of a relationship with God. So even to start thinking of ourselves as devotees. I'm a bhakta. Somebody says, who are you? I'm a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. That's my first answer. Somebody else will say, I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I'm an electrician, I'm a teacher, whatever. But if our first answer is, I'm a child of God, yeah, I'm a worshiper of the baby Gopala. This is the first answer. Then he says that this sense of I will help break this identification with this physical body and with our lower tendencies and everything else. So this is everything that Thakur is saying in this particular chapter, this particular section, is from the point of view of Jnana Yoga. From the point of view of Jnana Yoga, which is extremely important. If we can combine them at the same time that I feel I'm a child of God, also have some sense that I'm the witness. I'm the one who's observing everything. I'm not the one undergoing any change. I'm not even the one who has this relationship. If we can also have that sense, then of course it's very helpful. This will be the Shanta Bhava. Not given much attention to in these devotional traditions, but from the point of view of Jnana Yoga, this is the peaceful attitude. Why peaceful? Because we're not shaken by anything. Whatever happens, it'll have some effect on the mind, but not on me. Now, if I'm established in that conviction and that worldview, then the effect that it has on the mind will become less. It's not that I'll get angry the way I used to get angry, but I'll be the observer of that anger. That won't help us. If I'm the observer of the anger, really can do that, then the anger itself should lessen. And a point should come where the mind is not much affected by whatever anybody says or does. That's being established in the self. So pure Atman alone is our real nature. I am the observer of everything. This Sartre, I like him very much. I've talked about him before. He has one statement: I am my consciousness of me. I am my consciousness of me. And now analyze this statement. It's a very brilliant statement. What is the real I? I am my consciousness, the awareness of me. What does that mean? The ego. I am my consciousness of me. I'm not that objectified I. I'm the awareness of that. So these are all beautiful ideas. So the pure Atman alone is our real nature. What is jnana? What is knowledge? It is to know one's own self and keep the mind in it. So intellectual knowledge of the self is the first half of this. But if I know, or if I have some belief or some understanding that I'm the self, and yet I'm constantly acting as if I'm this physical body, constantly acting according to this apparent self, then it's not of much use. So we have to get established in that, and this is what we find in the Stita Prajna section of Gita. Actually, throughout the Gita, that the image that we get of the God realized soul always emphasizes this unchanging, the same to all, no big ups and downs. If I'm the witness, then I won't get too excited over something. It's going to pass. Too depressed over something, that also it's a temporary thing. I live in eternity, that feeling. I was never born, I never die. There's tremendous strength comes from that type of idea. Swamiji, of course, was grounded in that, in addition to being a great devotee. So what is jnana? It is to know one's own self and keep the mind in it. It is to know the pure Atman, but not to know the pure Atman the way we know anything else. To know that I am that. That's the final thing. I am that. And now we get to some other little more practical things. How long should a man perform his duties? As long as he identifies himself with the body. In other words, as long as he thinks he is the body. Now, if we look at other things that Thakur says, this is not the type of question that one day we decide that I can give up performance of duties. What he says is that they fall off on their own when we progress to that state. So it's not that one morning I can say that I know I'm not this body anymore. I'm not going to bother with anything in the world. It's far more than that. It has to be really almost that we're incapable of doing our duties at that point. That the mind is.
It says in Gita that don't start any new endeavors, restrict, doing.
For those who are very serious about spiritual life, it's best for them not to look for new things to do. In other words, if and Thakur, this is the way he looks at things. That don't go about looking for charitable work to do this and that. If anything comes before your eyes, then you can do something. Then that's fine. But most people are nowhere near that stage, and it's far better to do some good work in the world than to foolishly think that, oh, I'm beyond all of that. That'll get me enmeshed in Maya and all of that. And at the same time, we don't really do serious spiritual practice. That we haven't reached that stage yet where we can really get completely absorbed in that. So this is that 9th month of pregnancy. Thakur gives that example. We may be at the 5th month, 6th month, 7th, but when that comes, then Divine Mother herself will say, no, nothing more for you to do now. Simply prepare for the birth of the child and then look after the child. That's all. Yeah. So this is why, look at how Swamiji set up the Ramakrishna order for the monks we can say that, oh, these are monks, the pure young men who are coming to join, or women in Sharadamat, that surely the time has come for them to have no duty, to devote themselves all of the time to spiritual practice. But no, it is not true. That all of the work that we do in the order is not simply because there's a need for it. It's not simply because there are people in need of education and relief work and sunk in poverty. That's half of it. The other half is that we're not qualified to spend 24 hours a day in spiritual practice. That this will be elevating and purifying for us to be able to do something, do some service in the form of worship, if we can do it without attachment and do it in the right spirit and do it as an offering and as worship. That will be very helpful for us. So this question, how long should one perform duties? Now we talk about retirement. That's a different thing. Many people retire and then they'll still do other things. Some people, doctors, they retire, they're busier afterwards. they'll start a cardiac unit in someplace in India. It's very good. It's very good. Otherwise, what would they do? Very few people, especially those who've led an active life in the world, can just turn a switch and say, now I'll just do spiritual practice. It won't happen. Yeah. Who was it? Was it King Janaka? Somebody said that you may just throw me into the forest and everything and then say do spiritual practice. I'll build a kingdom there also. That's my nature. I still have that desire. Yeah. So this question of how long should one perform duties? As long as he identifies himself with the body. In other words, as long as he thinks he is the body. That means for most of us, a full lifetime. Rarely do we go beyond that. Now, a stage should come where our duties, we want to lessen them, as you say, not take up any more things, gradually lessen them, and if we can, devote ourselves really to some serious sadhana, with meditation and japa and prayer and everything like that, and turn over. This is the whole scheme of things. Turn over responsibility to children or something, or co-workers, and not have to worry about all of those things. Then, of course, is a good thing. But for most people, we have to engage in some positive activity also, especially in this Kali Yuga.
Ashramas, Maharaj, that's what they say.
Yes.
That you should not be taking any new endeavors, just devote more time to spiritual practice. Of course, sannyasa, that is the last stage.
Yes. So it's all a question of degree. Certainly we want to lessen duties. And now this question of duty also, there are things that we do freely and things that we do where we feel we're bound by obligations. And the obligations may not be that we owe somebody money or anything like that. It may simply be that society says that one should do these things.
So is that kartavya karam?
Yes. So that'll be this feeling, kartavya, that karya, that this is something that should be done. And now, Sri Ramakrishna says even the sannyasin has these things that he is supposed to do. That even things like baking food and carrying the danda, whatever. Everybody has some dharma, some swadharma, like that. So we have to be practical. It's a big problem. Two problems. One, remaining too involved with worldly things and under the guise of duty, and having no time for spiritual practice. And the other is completely retiring from the work that we've done a whole lifetime and avoiding any type of other types of activity. And the mind gets restless or bored, and we lose interest in life. How many people retire and then die within a few years? Ordinary people. Of course, those who have some serious spiritual practice, they should certainly be able to handle retirement in a different way, in a better way, of course. Yeah. But then suppose somebody serves the ashram afterwards. Then this is all good. These are good things, helpful things. And this spirit of service and worship, that spirit of worship, these are very, very helpful for spiritual life. This won't count as duty. This will be something freely done and really joyfully done. And these are helpful things. So then Thakur says, that is what the Gita says. To think of this body as the Atman is ajnana, ignorance. Yeah, we read that those who have this identification with the body, that in chapter 12, the Dehavat, that these are the people that will have a little difficulty in trying to fix the mind just on this infinite absolute reality without doing any type of karma yoga or anything else. And Thakur says in this Kali Yuga that we all have some type of this body consciousness and identity and everything. This is very rare to find people that, even in our order, say Holy Mother was told some sadhus would come and complain. We went and joined the order to devote the whole life to God. And here we're doing all of this work. And where's the time to do it? And she would say, yes, my child, you want to devote all of your time to God, then go live under a tree. There are many sadhus that do that. You're living in virtual luxury here. You have a roof over your head, the food is provided, everything provided for you, everything like that. You have to do some service. Yeah. So she knew, and Swamiji knew. It was brilliant on the part of Swamiji. That now in our order, we have many cases of monks who were not inclined towards this type of work, service, and left the order. And I don't know, I can't say what percentage of them, but there are some who really went to Uttarkashi and places like that, and didn't do any type of work and led good lives as good sadhus. Now, there'll be some also that will do that, and they'll also, waste a little time. We all waste time, of course. But there'll be some who are quite sincere. There'll be rare ones. Not every sadhu is of the right mindset to join our particular order. Many will complain that there's too much work and there's not enough time for meditation and everything else. And most of the senior sadhus will say, yeah, that nobody has so much work that there's not time for meditation. Yeah, you find time for other things, you'll find time for that. Yeah. So this is what the Gita says. To think of the body as the Atman is ajnana, ignorance. Now, to the bearded Brahmo devotee from Shibpur, are you a Brahmo? That means a member of the Brahmo Samaj. Devotee, yes, sir. Master smiling. I can recognize a worshipper of the formless by looking at his face and eyes. Now, he's not telling the other part. The other part is probably a little dryness is there. Yeah, because for Sri Ramakrishna, that the worship of the formless, this is not exactly the same as the real jnani, whose whole mind is immersed in the self or anything. This is that aspect of God that doesn't allow the mind to picture any image, to think of God in terms of a Shiva, Durga, or divine incarnation or anything, that just some amorphous type of idea that God is just, I don't know, some spirit or some loving presence, something like that. Very hard to fix the mind on that type of idea. Of course, they'll have the opposite complaint. How do you think of God as with human form? God is not a human being. So they'll look at it from the other point of view. But for Sri Ramakrishna, he could tell those who were lovers of God, bhaktas, that there'd be some sweetness. Their eyes would look different. So this is why when he would look at Narendra, he would say, yes, he has the eyes of a devotee, even though he was such a great jnani. Both. So I can recognize a worshipper of the formless by looking at his face and eyes. Then he says, please dive a little deeper. Yeah, we had this nice conversation with Swami Sarvadevananji about what does it mean to dive deep. Doob-dow. Doob-doob-doob, Rup-shagare. Yeah. So this is really a question of intensity. When we sit for meditation, we let the mind roam around a little bit, and we get some type of enjoyment from that also. It's our chance to let the mind think of things that we haven't thought about for a while. We can remember old friends. We can do all sorts of things. And there's some type of enjoyment. Somebody asked the question, I think about even if we get anger and things like that, is there some happiness that comes from that? Think about, yes, we can sit and get angry in meditation, and there's some type of enjoyment in it. Otherwise, we won't do it. We won't do it. The only reason the mind will go to that which will keep it happily occupied. So sometimes we'll sit and mind will keep going back to some insult that somebody made, something that other people would say, well, you're just making yourself angry and upset. Yeah. So we won't do it unless there's something attractive about it, right? Yeah. So there's some people they like being angry, or like remembering past insults and hurts and things like that. This is the nature of the mind. We have to develop a taste for that which will make the mind happy and at the same time calm and quiet. So for me, this diving deep means going beneath the mind surface of the mind to the heart center, and entering to that feeling and that love. That song, this idea that Vrindavan of the heart. These are the Vaishnava tradition, Baal tradition, which belongs to the Vaishnava tradition also. That dwelling place of God within, and that place of Leela, divine Leela. So for the Vaishnavas, go into deep meditation to feel they've entered into this. Vrindavan is not a place that exists on earth. That there's some eternal Vrindavan that dwells within their heart, and God dwells there. And to go and enter into that deep beneath the mind, which is thinking, the thinking mind to that feeling heart. So there's a diving deep to really try to fix the mind so that it's not the mind. It becomes quiet. The mind becomes merged. Mind. See, when we say manonasha, the mind disappears. Mind disappears. What's left? The heart. That means we're getting rid of thought. We're not getting rid of feeling. So when we
Avinash, is it the complete annihilation of the subconscious mind, or is it?
no, it's not the subconscious mind. It's the active mind. Manonasha. So no thoughts at that time. No vrittis at that time. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that that there's no experience at that time. Then everything can be just feeling. We're going beneath that level of just that surface mind, which is trying to think in terms of concepts and thought and language and everything, to some deeper level, where we're face to face with the Ishtadevata in that dwelling place, the Vrindavan of the heart. And we feel that intense love, that loving relationship. To me, this is what the Dub Urup Shagare, Aman Mon. That ocean of Urup Shagare, this ocean of beauty, but also within the realm of Saguna Brahman, God with form, the form that we most want to see. Yeah. So in the Vaishnava tradition, there's Urup Shagare, that'll be this eternal Vrindavan or that eternal realm. God dwells within the heart. That heart center can also be thought of as Leela, Leela Sthan, that place of Leela. Huh? So this is a beautiful Baal tradition where everything is internal. They don't care much for these external deities or everything. Everything is internal. So please dive a little deeper. So this is really Thakur. He felt with the Brahmos that they were so almost obsessed with the reform work and everything that they didn't turn inward enough and to find that treasure within. Exactly what he said to Vidyasagar, or about him, that if he knew that his gold was hidden within the heart, he wouldn't spend so much time with this social service work and philanthropical work and other things. So please dive a little deeper. One doesn't get the gem by floating on the surface. So this is this idea, really, this is the idea of the devotee and this Saguna Brahman, is that we go to the depths of the ocean. See, for the Jnani, you go to the depths of the ocean, what will happen? Like the salt doll, you'll melt. For the bhakta, you'll see the gems lying on the ocean bed. You'll enter into that divine realm where God is playing with his devotees. There are two different ways of looking at it. Yeah, the worldview of the devotee, the worldview of the Jnani will be different. That's fine. They can be different. These are all spiritual attitudes and longing of the heart.
Only one Maharaj, right?
What's that?
Even Jnanis have a component of devotion in them. I mean, it's not strictly like anybody's one and not the other kind of thing.
Yes, of course. In our tradition, we really try to combine and to ground devotion in knowledge, and to utilize meditation, and also be great karmis, great workers. Yeah, this is those who are fanatically dualistic bhaktas, and those who are fanatically non-dualistic jnanis, that they'll see almost a wall between them. They're like Democrats and Republicans. Yeah. Other people, they'll appreciate each and utilize, and we try to be completely this is the ideal, is to be a fully rounded individual, to be a jnani in the depth of our understanding, to be a bhakta in the depth of our feeling, to be a Raja Yogi, that we can control the mind, and also to be completely active and to not waste a second, to do everything to see God in everyone, to serve everyone, to do everything as an offering, all of them. We can combine them, we can do it one by one. So we can be jnanis, we sit for meditation, then we get up, and Swamiji says, yeah, then you go to the marketplace, you buy things, you do everything, and then you're a karma yogi.
But how can we do one by one?
Because we can't be karma yogis when we're sitting for meditation. At that time, we're trying to forget this body at all. We're not active at that time. The time that we're active, we're serving somebody else. We're not meditating at that time. Mind can be a little meditative, of course. Yeah, but the emphasis will appear to be a karma yogi at that time. Then we sit for meditation. See, this is why Thakur, he said, whoever comes to me thinks I belong to them. Because in the presence of these Vaishnavas, and then I'm a bhakta. In the presence of the jnanis, then I'm a jnani. The mind can within one circle. It's not digging wells in different places. Within one circle, that this mind has facets to it. And we can emphasize certain aspects of it and the time that we have to be active, and different aspects at the time when we're doing puja or worship. Yeah. If I'm involved in prayer, say I am deeply involved in prayer, praying to the Divine Mother, I'm not going to try to think that I'm the witness, that this body and mind itself or something separate from me. At that time, I'm the child of Mother. So we can have nishtha, we can have one spiritual attitude that allows for these different aspects of our personality to develop. And that's the best and the strongest. This is why Swamiji says that do it either by one or the other, or a combination or all of them. And the ideal of our order is to be able to be ideal karma yogis, ideal Raja yogis, ideal bhaktas, and ideal jnanis. Yeah. This is the perfect ideal that we have. And not have them as compartmental things, but integrated. Not even harmonized. Harmony means that we have all separate things, but they don't clash. Integration means we've made it into one spiritual path that has all these elements to it. See, then Sri Ramakrishna says, one doesn't get the gem by floating on the surface. As for myself, I accept all, the formless God and God with form. Now, is he contradicting himself? Is he splitting himself into two things? No, because he understands that Nirguna Brahman and Saguna Brahman are one and the same. They're not two separate things. You choose one day I'll worship, one day I'll worship the other. That which is formless can appear in all different forms. That water, which has no shape of its own, can take any shape at different times. There's one reality. The Marwari devotees from Bordo Bazar entered the room and saluted the master. He began to praise them. Master to the devotees. Ah, they are real devotees of God. They visit temples, sing hymns to God, and eat prasad. And the gentleman whom they've made their priest this year is learned in the Bhagavata. Now, Sri Ramakrishna, he had great respect for these Marwaris, that they followed all of these the customs of their own Hindu traditions and everything, but they were business people. And for him, the essence of business is you buy something cheap and you sell it for more money and you make a profit. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's in his mind that it's, I don't want to say dishonest, but it doesn't reach that level of perfect truthfulness that Thakur had. So he would hesitate to eat their food or to let any of the devotees eat their food except for Narendra. He would say, we'll save it. And Narendra's company will save it, give it to him. He's like a burning fire. He can burn up anything. So a little bit of a contradiction, we may say, that praising them on the one hand and on the other hand, but it wasn't just the Marwaris. Say with the Surendra, that Thakur said, you tell lies in the office. Everybody does. But why do I take eat your food? He said, because you're so generous. He made an exception with him. Marwaris were also generous, but anyhow, this was he had a certain feeling about people who do business, people who are doctors, and people who are lawyers. Yeah.
Because it's adversity, somebody's adversity, you're making money out of it.
Yeah, they're making money off of somebody's thing. So he said, yeah, bless my child to be a successful doctor. How can I do that? It means that I'm hoping there'll be plenty of sick people. Yeah. And lawyers, they have to defend their client. They don't have to always be truthful and everything. Yeah. But on the other hand, how Thakur said the doctor is Narayan himself, and how much faith he had in doctors and everything. Marwari devotee. Who is this I that says, "O Lord, I am thy servant"? Okay, very good question. This goes back to, again, this idea, who is this Jiva that we talk about? Master, this is the Linga Sharira, or embodied soul. Now, Linga Sharira is the same as Sukshma Sharira, and embodied soul, this is the Jiva. Now, we'll stop here, and because this brings in this very important question of the Jiva. The one thing that I think is important for us to remember is that we sometimes ask the wrong question. We ask, what is the Jiva? When really we should ask, what is this concept of the Jiva? Because these are all concepts, and there'll be all different answers that we get, and all of them with some merit. When the Vishishta Dvaita Vedantins, when they say that they're like the seeds in the bell fruit, there are many of them, they all dwell within Brahman. There's great merit to that. As somebody says that how can there be a multitude of jivas? He said, well, there's a multitude of physical bodies. There's a multitude of reflected suns. Why not talk about the plurality, a multitude of jivas? then somebody else will say, that's just the reflected sun. There's only one real sun. And this is what you say, the Jiva is really nothing but Brahman. There can only be one. That's also a wonderful conception. We can appreciate both. This is why Sri Ramakrishna said that, yes, I accept this Vishishta Dvaita Vedanta. I also accept the Dvaita Vedanta. Because he saw there's different ways of trying to explain something which is beyond our conception. We can't say, is this Atman? Is it one or is it many? Is it Brahman one? This is that beautiful example of the sun. When we break all of the containers and the only one sun is left, we can't even say that much. There's no one to say it. So this idea of the Jiva, we all want to know that what is the real nature of the Jiva, and really what is the conception that we have according to Shankaracharya, according to Ramanuja, according to Madhva and everything, that each one will be a path, motpat. Each one will be a conception that will allow us to do our spiritual practice in a particular way. Those who want to have a relationship with God, they're better off thinking that they're individuals. You can't keep saying soham, and then have this saguna relationship with God. I mean, we can do it, of course, but one thing, they fit together nicely. Yeah, that's why Thakur, he never made that mistake of thinking that this conception is the same as the reality. Mat is only pat. Mat ishwanoi. It's not the nature of reality is something to be experienced and not something to be conceptualized. The conception of it is helpful. It's very helpful. And we can get deep conviction when the conception is something that is very logical, based on what we really, and ultimately experience. But that ultimate experience, even Nirvikalpa Samadhi, is it oneness? Is it the mind merging? Even that we can't say. When the river enters into the ocean, yeah, is it the same as salt, where the salt will go into each and every molecule there, or does it just kind of get lost in it? Yeah, we don't have good answers for these things. So I always try to remind myself whenever I get into this.
So what is Ling Sharir is?
Linga Sharira means Sukshma Sharira. It's another term for the subtle body. So that means that subtle body, this when we talk about the Jiva, what is it that goes from body to body to body? It'll be the subtle body, but all with the light of consciousness. Otherwise, it's considered to be some type of subtle matter, almost. Something that can go from one place to another, somehow like that. Okay.
So what goes is the Sukshma Sharira and the causal body, the ego, right?
Yes, this causal body. If we think now, this is all just it's philosophy now. We don't know really how these things work, but if we assume that somehow when we give up this body, that something can travel and enter into another body, that will be this subtle body. But if this mind goes into some state of laya, so because we don't remember, we don't have a conscious mind through all of this. I'm not observing myself leave this body, enter into another body, something like that. Then it'll go into that causal state. So if we remember the concentric circles, if we have the subtle body, we have the causal body automatically inside of it. So that will also, if we say Linga Sharira, it will have to be, because it's nothing but the mind in this potential form, things hidden in the mind, we can say. So that'll also be part of it.
Let me show you.
Yeah.
Ego continues from body to body.
This ego, if we're talking about this ego as a sense of who we are, no. When we're born as little children, we have to develop an ego. We have no sense of I till we reach a certain age, and that gets completely identified with the new body. We don't remember the old body. Some of the tendencies will be there. Some of the tendencies, even memory bank could be there, but it's usually not accessible to us. But some of the tendencies, some of the impressions, the samskaras and vasanas.
But Maharaj, so many people can remember their last birth.
Not so many.
Home.
Not so many.
Why
Maybe
don't
1
they-
out of a billion. How many?
They can take you to their.
No, this is what I'm saying. That it can be there, but not accessible to us. How many things do you remember from when you were 2 years old? Yeah. That doesn't mean that it's not hidden there, so that it was experienced, so it's recorded somehow. But we don't have access to it. How many things did we forget that we did last week? Yeah. So there may be lifetimes that are still in the vault, but for most of us, we don't have access to it. And it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. What do we gain if we remember all those things? Yeah. Okay, let us stop here. Om Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukham Bhatadavikramai Ishabhataram Parameshamidhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namama. We bow our heads before Sri Ramakrishna, who is stainless, of infinite nature, whose heart melts in sympathy for his devotees, who is an embodiment of the divine and the Supreme Lord, and ever worthy of our worship. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Thank you all for coming. We will not have the Friday night class next week or the week after. Yeah, I'll be away. Yeah, I'll be out of town, so we'll show it on the website also. But okay. And stream.